Hello and welcome to the pod. I'm Nathan Fink.
I'm Jolyn Drennan, and this is New Hampshire Family Now,
a show about building family in the Granite State. Today in the show, Jolyn joins me to talk stressors and her recycling bin. And later, Amanda Grapponi-Osmer of Grapponi Automotive Group joins us for a section we call Businesses That Build Family. New Hampshire Family Now is brought to you by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. Since 1962, the Charitable Foundation has worked hand in hand with generous and visionary citizens to maximize the power of giving and support, collaborate, and lead innovative initiatives. Initiatives like New Hampshire Tomorrow, which is focused on making sure children and families have access to education, healthcare, and career pathways to ensure every family member thrives. To learn more about New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and all their initiatives, go to www.nhcf.org. This podcast was also brought to you by Family Support New Hampshire. Family Support New Hampshire is NH's coalition of family resource centers and family strengthening programs that exist to ensure Granite State families have access to resources so both caregivers and children can succeed, because supported families are strong families. To find a family resource center near you, visit www.fsnh.org. Hey, it's Nathan, co-host of New Hampshire Family Now. I wanted to take a quick break from the show because it occurred to me the other day that I've never asked you to subscribe to this podcast. Subscribing is free, and when you do it, it helps our placement algorithms, making it that much easier for caregivers across New Hampshire to find valuable information and strategies for their families. Also, you'll be alerted when a new episode drops. And if you like the show, leaving a review helps us that much more. So go to wherever you get your podcast, type in New Hampshire Family Now, and as the kids say, smash that subscribe button. I say click it, because if you smash it, then you're going to need a new one. Thank you and enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Do you know what's great about today?
What's great about today?
Tomorrow I leave for vacation.
Oh, that's so exciting. Where are you going?
Back to Wisconsin. So if you want me to bring you anything besides a COVID variant, just let me know. I am excited though, because I think I need this one more than I have needed a vacation lately. And I've been thinking about that work-life, home-life balance. And I don't know what to do with the continuous mounting pressures, right? Because, we're at work and we've got all this work pressure, kids now in school and soccer and camps. And I think I'm having trouble with this balancing act because I don't know how to essentially de-escalate myself. But I'm also looking at this and going, oh my gosh, these pressures are just going to keep increasing because I'm not ventilating them.
Right. Stress management.
Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Stress management as a phrase. But what do you mean by that?
Well, how are you managing stress? Do you put any intention around it?
I mean, I try to exercise and I'm trying to eat better. But it's not like I'm meditating.
Well, I mean, I think it's important to know that when parents are stressed, children feel it.
Yeah. They do, right? And
even though they don't show it.
Right. And my game right now is I'm trying to hide it because I'm I know that my stress, I'm going to emanate it. And my kids are in the room and they're perceiving and picking up on it, from motions and all these things and even expressions on my face. So I'm not just deeply invested in how far can I stuff this stuff down?
Well, actually, I think probably a more positive approach would be to just acknowledge your feelings to your kids. So you're modeling that, dad is stressed and then talk about it. And this is what I'm doing to handle it. And then you're showing them your human side, you're showing them that it's okay to be stressed and to deal with, there's things you can do. Let's go for a walk. Let's do, let's play Legos. Let's do something that distracts, or just relieves it. It's like a release.
It's stressing me out that my stress is stressing me out. Okay. So I'm hearing you say stuffing it down, hiding it from my kids is actually avoiding a teaching moment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I think it is. It's a teachable moment. And it's a release for you too. So there's a mutual benefit of not that you should be unloading everything on your kids, age appropriate, of course. Right. But yeah, I think it's healthy to model and show that, parents have big feelings sometimes. And then it shows them that that's okay.
Can you give me an example of how you might engage in this conversation with your son based on a hypothetical work stressor that has no basis in reality?
So I think a couple of weeks ago, I came home and I was pretty stressed out because I had some self-imposed deadlines that I did not meet. And I was, I think I was just kind of banging around the house, just fuming about it. And my son came in and was like, Mommy, do you always have to fight at work? And I was like, but he stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, wait, what? I don't fight at work, but and then I had a conversation with him. I just said, sometimes when things aren't going as planned, or there's a change of plans, that can be stressful for mommy. And I have to, and then I talked about, you know what? You just saw me banging around in the kitchen, probably doing probably opened a bottle of wine. But that's not the healthiest of behavior. So that was actually an opportunity, because he acknowledged it. That was an opportunity for me to say, you know what? Yeah. I could have gone on a walk and hey, let's go take the dog out for a walk.
That's really smart, because, it's so basic, but it almost makes me think about the fact that if you're not acknowledging it, you're actually not affording them the space to understand stress in their own life, because regardless of how young they are, stressors can come from the playground or a teacher asking them to sit down in a tone that catches you by surprise. Then all of a sudden they've got this cortisol buildup. So the more that I kind of try to ignore and let's just call it the great stuffing, the more I try to do that, I'm actually not affording them the tools to process.
Hey, no problem. Did I make you feel like a better parent?
Well, it's funny because I feel like in parenting, there's this, you feel worse before you feel better. Yeah. So I got to go home and I got to kind of sort that out. But I think it's really, and then because I'm also though then thinking, right, those are just existing stressors. But I'm just looking at the mountain and saying, okay, stressors are not going anywhere. And it does scare me that they're going to be increasing geometrically, because you feels like you're stacking these. So what do you do about that stack?
Well, I think there's a level of just self-assessment where you have to reality check yourself and prioritize things. What are the things that need to happen now? What's acute? And then what, no one is going to explode if you don't respond to an email. This is something I have to tell myself all the time. It's just around, I think, setting boundaries for yourself. And not only just setting them, but maintaining them and keeping fidelity to them. This is what my time is, and that your family is the most important thing, and your health. And that should be the priority.
Right. Just reorganizing. That makes a lot of sense, is reorganizing, and then also giving yourself the space to say no. Later on in the second half of the show, Amanda Grapponi-Osmer comes in and we talk at length about the myth of work-life, family-life balance, because, over the last 2 years, 3 years, those things have evaporated. The barrier between that has evaporated. And so now it's more about acknowledging, like you say, before you run headlong into it as a problem. You can look in your recycling bin.
Let's not talk about my recycling bin.
Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Because what are the measures? How do you actually process the fact that you're about to, see the rock slide?
I think, to be honest, I'm not very good at it. I can talk about it, but I think I'm getting better at it. And it's always a work in progress. It's just so I know certain months of the year for us are going to be way busier than others. And I do myself a disservice because because I know this, I try to plan for it, but it just creates more anxiety in my mind. Oh God, I need to get all this done and And that's the thing. I always get it done. And if it's a day later, then everybody's fine. I think too, asking for help when you need it, and having a workplace that's supportive and that recognizes when their staff is getting stressed out or the load is too much, and that has, provides resources, and flexibility.
It would be nice if, that, because not everybody has that, and obviously we're focusing on these businesses that build family, because this is in fact something organizations can strive to be. What do you do when your workplace isn't?
There is reality. I think that we're in a place where I think employers are realizing that really everyone has a role in supporting families and supporting their workers. And if you're having trouble hiring right now, maybe you should check your HR policies.
Yeah, maybe you should talk about them openly.
Yeah. And because there's a degree of flexibility. We all have families, whether you have kids or not, or elderly parents that you need to take care of, or other family members. There's a degree of flexibility that's just, it has to be there, because we can't just continue to work as if we don't have families and lives.
That's true. Well, I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's good to see you as always.
Yeah, thanks.
And when we come back, Amanda Grapponi-Osmer joins us for our Businesses That Build Families section. Don't go anywhere. Many thanks to New Hampshire's Office of Social and Emotional Wellness for sponsoring this podcast. Started within New Hampshire's Department of Education, the Office of Social and Emotional Wellness consolidates policy development and implements projects and programs that are focused on health and wellness with an emphasis on behavioral health of all students, youth, and families. To learn more about the Department of Education and its many programs and approaches, visit www.education.nh.gov. Today's show was also brought to you by Merrimack County Savings Bank, who proudly supports the mission and efforts of New Hampshire Children's Trust. Founded in 1867, Merrimack has served people, businesses, nonprofits, and municipalities in central and southern New Hampshire for over 155 years by treating everyone with care, respect, and compassion. Visit your local offices in Bow, Concord, Kentucky, Hooksett, and Nashua, or go to www.themerrimack.com. This podcast was brought to you by Nixon Peabody, who delivers exceptional legal services for clients in the community by combining high performance, an entrepreneurial spirit, deep engagement, and an unwavering commitment to a culture of collaboration, diversity, and humanity. Nixon Peabody works with universities, hospitals, and nonprofits of every size to maximize impact. For more information, visit nixonpeabody.com. Hello and welcome to the show. Today I have the great pleasure of welcoming Amanda Grapponi-Osmer, owner of Grapponi Automotive Group. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. Thank you.
First and foremost, congratulations on making the New Hampshire's top 200. What an honor to be on that list.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
My first question, of course, I think everyone wants to know the state of your chicken game. Have you rebuilt the colony at the house?
Well, the chicken coop, I think the chickens are now, I believe they number 12. We lost a few to what we think is natural causes. We're not sure. There were no paw prints. Down to 12, 10 laying hens and two actually very nice roosters.
Do chickens come in colony? I don't know what chickens come in.
Maybe? I don't know.
Well, I've been thinking about it because of more than anything, I think it's about finding a way to put your family at the center of your life or your work life. I'm not being facetious about this because I think home life come work life these days is incredibly challenging. And I'm just wondering how you've been able to balance your work family life given your tremendous business success over the years.
I mean, first of all, I guess I would maybe dispel with the myth that there is such a thing as balance. That's one thing I've learned. It's really priorities. That's all it comes down to. So over time, I've had different priorities that have led to different results. And the best results personally for me have been when I put my family first in terms of prioritizing my physical time with them and my energy. I just remember because we had 3 kids in 3 years. So it was pretty busy. And our kids are now teenagers. But back when we first started out with being parents and whatnot, I just remember coming home and thinking to myself one day, I have no energy left for my actual family by the time I'm done, because between the nursing and the, working full time and all that. And so for me personally, what helped a lot was just making some changes to my diet and exercise routine and just come up with enough energy to focus on the people and the things that mattered the most. And then just kind of re-rank, I guess, because I definitely fell into the trap of, I think, understanding falsely that my work was who I was. It defined me too much. So I think over the years, it's been easier now to understand what really truly matters. So I just need to prioritize things like that because our kids are going to be gone in a few years and I already miss them and they're not even gone.
It's funny. Mine too. I miss them. My son, when he's at school, he comes home and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, I had a hard day, and I'm just like flipping his ears around.
Yeah.
But I'm curious with that because it seems like you learn that because you run into it, like face first. All of a sudden you have this moment where you're like, wait a minute, my priorities are not what I think they should be. And I'm wondering, in your life, was that a slow realization? Was it a hard realization, or you basically came to a dead stop and had to change gears?
Well, I would say if I'd been paying attention, I would have realized that slowly over years it had been building up until it physically took me out with a back injury. And then, there's a variety of things that happened around that same time with my brother. And you're probably aware my brother passed away. He had cancer and he was my business partner as well as my brother. So there was just a lot of opportunity for really deep grief all at once for physical and emotional and spiritual reasons. And so, yeah, I definitely have been on the receiving end of the blessing of being completely taken down. And at the time, it did not feel like a blessing. Let me just say, it felt like there was no way back up. But you mentioned something about, I can't remember what phrase you used, but like facing things head on. I guess what I have learned about myself over the last few decades is that I don't tend to skirt pain. I tend to go straight through the middle of it. And really that became clear to me, like the choice that my husband and I made to do drug-free births. That was important to us. And we were fortunate to have straightforward births. So all three of our kids were born naturally. And our last one was actually born at home. And that it didn't really occur to me for a while that was a choice it wasn't even a choice. I was like, no, that's just the way it's got to be. But I kind of reflect back on that as one of the first kind of foundational experiences in my life where I realized that I don't enjoy pain, but I recognize that it has a lot to teach us.
Yeah. But, a lot of times when life happens like that, back injury, say the death of a loved one, we are kind of in this context of our work lives as well. And, being able to reprioritize and maintain a work life. And I know you said balance, that's kind of a misnomer, but I'm wondering about this because you are an owner of a business. Are there certain components or allowances that you've noticed over your years that actually help others embrace that in their roles in that particular business?
I do feel like that term speed of the leader, there's a lot to that. And we have a team of 6 people who are the directors of our company. And we've all been, I'm actually the least tenured of all 6 of us. And I've been there 25 years. So we've got our president and our HR director and the woman who runs accounting and then our fixed ops person and my dad and myself. So all of those people, we really do, I think, lead by example in terms of staying true to our mission, not backing down from difficult things like when we made that transition in 2013 to completely changing our sales model. And it was a pretty bold move. It required a lot of bravery in terms of understanding that it was going to be painful on different levels. We lost 70% of our sales team, for example, that one year. Lost a lot of money. I call it investing in the future, but it was a loss on the books. We can't dance around that. So I think by all 6 of us showing up and just, walking the walk and never expecting people to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves, that is really core to solid leadership. I've worked in places before where I'm just sure that my boss would never do what he or she was asking me to do, and that doesn't feel good. So you don't feel supported in a way that makes you really feel like you belong to a team that you want to be part of. So that whole sense of belonging, I think that's kind of where I always resettle. Not always, this hasn't always been that way. This is something I've learned over time is if people don't feel like they belong, and this goes for any kind of group, whether you're in school or a sports team or the workplace, everything is just harder, and I think in my mind, there's kind of a default mechanism where if you don't feel like you belong, then the defenses go up. And when defenses are up, it's very hard to penetrate into a person's true self, and I speak from experience. So I guess to answer your question, we try to create an environment in which we have a very clear mission statement. Our mission statement is to build lifelong relationships with our team members and our guests in our community. And if we have a policy or a practice or something that if you overlay the mission on top of it and there's any kind of gap or light coming in, we have to go back to the drawing board. And we've been pretty disciplined about that when it comes to how we pay people. Like it was a great example, I think, during COVID when it first hit in 2020. This is before anybody breathed a word about PPP or anything like that. And as a company, it didn't even occur to us that there was another option. We sat together twice a day. The directors met, and I would update we have about 340 team members, and every day I'd send out 6 days a week. I'd send out an update on what the directors knew about the local, the national, and the global situation, because it affected people's health, but it also affected our inventories, our ability to actually have product to sell. So communication is really key. But I think through that entire time, what became clear to me again, and which I'm just so proud of, is that the team of people I get to work with every day, we're so like-minded when it comes to how do you care for the team first. So we didn't make layoffs. We kept people whole, even if they were working half schedules, because we had to, band into these forms of like A team, B team for the technicians, for example, so that we could try to keep people from, in terms of contact tracing, taking out entire shops back when contact tracing was a thing. So I guess the simple answer is to lead by example. And if somebody finds themselves in a position where they know in their hearts that they're not part of something that is the right thing to be part of, exercise the option to find the place where you belong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really heartening to hear that, because it seems like I'm hearing that more and more. And I'm wondering, in the circles of business leaders, are you seeing kind of a change in the way that others are working as well to better embrace workers and their families?
Yeah, ultimately, flexibility for the worker has really risen to the top here. And I'm happy to see it, because over the years, I've toyed with the idea of, maybe we can have some of our team members work at least some days at home. That'd be easier for them on their family schedule. And we've always found ways why it wouldn't work. And the great gift of COVID was, well, guess what? Now you're going to find a way. And we did. We still have people working at home who never did before, like appointment coordinators, or the guest experience center. If you're interested in buying a car, you call in because you saw something on the website. That person is probably sitting in their living room now and not at Grapponi. And what we also found too is that because we have a real strong culture, people so missed being together. So what seems to be happening now, now that we've had a couple of years to kind of look back on this, is that combination, that hybrid combination of some time at home, but also time with your work friends and work family. That seems to be really important. Me too. I love working from home on certain days. If I can, try to help clean or cook or something and get some of this stuff done out of the way that normally I would do maybe before or after the work hours, it just makes my day a little bit longer. If I'm in between meetings and I can throw dinner on, that to me is a total win. And I know that that's true of other people too. So it's good. It's just good to be refreshed. We've been closed on Sundays other than just holiday weekends, but we have 4 Sunday openings this year, but we've been closed on Sundays for as long as I can remember. And really, it just is kind of a nod to the fact that as a business, like the organism that our business is, needs a rest. You can't just keep driving and going, because all of us, me included, would find some way to show up. There's a lot to it. And I think there's a lot of benefit. And I love to see when people are so dedicated and devoted that they are motivated to come in and they want to show up. Like, to me, that's the success of having created a place with solid leadership, is that your team members are excited to show up for work and they're happy to be there.
It's so awesome to hear you say this, because I keep thinking about that Venn diagram that is like, okay, so here's my work me, here's my home me, in this idea that I'm not sure what the spaces are on each of the sides, because they're so overlaid these days. And there's something so freeing in that. But I'm wondering, because of this, this discussion around, business leadership, thinking from the head of an organization that, like you said, it's an organic, almost like a hive mind, right? Have you found that some of kind of those lessons learned in your position as owner of Grapponi Automotive Group translate down to your parenting? Or are they so different that it's kind of like, look, there's hats that you're putting on and taking off and putting on? Or how do you negotiate that?
Somebody very wise once told me that when I was in conversation with her, I thought I was the genius mom with the amazing insight. And I said, what I need to do is run my family the way I run my business. And she looked at me and she said, no, you need to run your business the way you run your family. And that really stuck with me, because it forced me to understand the difference between how I approach each of those things. But I would say that the fundamentals, like if I'm being honest and true to myself, the core things are not going to change no matter where I go. That's my job in life, is to be authentically, if my mission in life is to be kind and honest and have integrity, I can't pick and choose where the integrity shows up. That's something that I think has really become crystal clear at work. Through a deep personal experience, I realized the great importance of, being a woman of my word, and what happens when you're not. When I stray from that, what are the negative side effects? So if I see that in my family life or my work life, I need to respond. That's just, I guess the easy way of putting this is that the core should never, ever change. Like, I have way more responsibility at work than I do at home, which is great because I love being able to divide and conquer. My husband was a stay-at-home dad when our kids were little. And let me tell you what a gift that was, because there's no way I could have, without an open mind and an easy heart, I never could have left the driveway if I didn't know he was there taking care of everything from cooking to cleaning to getting him dressed and, being goofy with him and watching Curious George, which I always missed out on. But don't worry, Curious George is still there, so I can catch up.
It's absolutely incredible to hear this. I mean, talk about a business that builds family. integrity, it shows up and it will show up the same way in the same circumstance as it should. And picking and choosing when that shows up, that is anathema to the parent I want to be or the kids I want to have.
In our industry in particular, it's very easy to highlight lack of integrity because how many people of our age have had bad car buying experiences? Pretty much everybody. Even now, there continues to be predatory lending and misleading, misguiding things. I mean, I remember seeing a couple years back, some dealer was advertising an oil change for some ridiculous amount of money, like $9.99 or something. And then on the bottom, it was a newspaper ad. And at the bottom, there was this fine print that says, does not include oil. So that just kind of like the bait and switch advertising, all that stuff. And I really feel like the team that we've been able to assemble, especially after changing the way that we sell cars back in 2013, it really allowed for us to just open up the doors to people who believed in our mission and not people who believed in car sales. And that to me is like, and I know I don't want to just focus narrowly on sales because we have other operations and other departments that just do tremendous work every day. But it's easy to pick on car sales. So I do.
No, it is. And I'll tell you, I had a bad experience last time because I didn't go to Grouponi. See what I did there?
Thanks for that plug. Yeah.
This has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Of course, every time we talk, whether it's chickens or us just talking about whatever, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. It was great to be here.
To visit Grouponi Automotive Group, go to www.grouponi.com. Many thanks to the Samuel P. Hunt Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Established in 1951, Samuel P. Hunt Foundation is a Manchester-based, independent nonprofit that provides grants primarily for the arts, children and youth services, faith-based organizations, educational institutions, healthcare, and human services. Today's show was also brought to you by the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock and the Child Advocacy and Protection Program, a multidisciplinary program with the Children's Hospital established to evaluate and provide integrative care to suspected victims of child maltreatment. Together, a team of physicians, advanced practice registered nurses, social workers, nurses, and child life specialists work to provide consultation and evaluations of children who are suspected victims of abuse, so to serve in the best interest of children and families at multiple levels of prevention. For more information about Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock and the Child Advocacy Protection Program, visit www.chadkids.org/child-advocacy. New Hampshire Family Now is listed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and more. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or ask your smart speaker to play New Hampshire Family Now.